Ready? We'll get going?
Yeah.
Coach, you got some guys back. Well, not back all the way. Okie hadn't been with you yet, but just your thoughts on, I guess, some of the guys that are returning from injuries.
Yeah, we had some limited reps. Kenai Walker was one of them that he didn't do the entire practice. That was planned going in, but what he did, it was good to see him out there. Obviously, we need to see him, see what he can do skill set wise and all that before the portal opens, and so we were real happy about him. David Okie did the same thing. He was limited, but he went through Indy and went through some half of what his normal rack would have been during practice. He did half of those, so that was good. I'm trying to think of somebody else that came back or that was out. Wyatt Simmons has been limited as well. He's still got a little bit of a hamstring pull there. If I'm thinking right, I think those are the guys offensively. I'm not positive that we had anybody. We've got Rodney's in a green, but he's been practicing. Can't think of the other ones, but those two guys look pretty good in individual and the limited reps they had.
Like Omega, Blake had a pretty good day Tuesday. Is he a guy that you're just kind of challenging? Obviously, you brought him in to make big plays.
I thought, it's like anything. Sometimes we forget that, when we played or when these guys play, that there's always a learning curve, not necessarily an athletic curve, it's a learning. And at times you'll see them play a little slower than what, let's say, a one-on-one, because he's always looked really good in one-on-one. For the last 3 practices, he's really showed up. And so he just likes playing football. Caught a really nice pass. I think Madden, was the one that threw it to him. But his head was here and he went back the other direction in a one-on-one drill. So I think his confidence is growing, and certainly our confidence is growing in him as well. Over the last 3 practices, I think he's really had good practices.
So speaking of the receivers, it seems like CC is also kind of coming along into his own. Just kind of what do you see from him and kind of where his role fits into all the pieces?
Well, he's got to be a big part of our offense. I think he's earned that in the way that he's practiced to this point. And he's a mature guy that goes about his business, doesn't say a whole lot. But he's a big physical guy. He's not overly tall, he's not the 6'5", but he's big, he's physical, and he can catch the ball really well. So I see him being a big part of our offense.
Coach, Marion, I know you got a lot of offensive linemen that are working in multiple spots right now, but Marion's a guy that has the experience from just last season. I'm curious, when you go back and watch the film from him last year, what stood out, tackle, guard? I mean, do you feel like there's a better fit between one of those two positions for him?
I think he gets a lot of bull, so whether it's bull rush, so whether it's out there at tackle or whether it's in at guard, he's a really good run blocking guy and he's a good pass protector. But the number one thing that we have to work on him is setting down, whether that be at tackle or not. I would go as far to say as I think he's probably our most valuable offensive lineman because he can play 4 spots. He can play all 4 spots well. Going back and looking at him last year, we had a need to move him out to tackle, but I thought he was playing well inside at guard. So what he does, he allows us to figure out, who's number 5, who's number 4. I think Shaq McCroy is really continuing to move forward, and that might allow us, which we've done, to move E inside a little bit more. So we're just trying to find the best 5 guys that we can so we can move the ball, protect the quarterback, and that's still something that we have to continue to work on. I thought he played well. I thought he played well inside and outside last year. So we're just going to find out where our line can be the best and put him wherever. I don't think he cares. I think he just wants to play.
I guess this is the first time we've gotten to talk to you since Arkansas made it official with Remy Cofield. Just impressions of him. I know he's a basketball guy. What have you maybe learned from talking to him, and how are you guys working together right now?
Well, I mean, I coached ninth grade girls basketball too, but I'm a football guy. So, and I enjoyed coaching those girls too. But that was in 1986, by the way. But I think coming from the professional ranks, I think he's seen and heard, and regardless of the sport, exactly what we're looking for. You know, more eyes, help, understanding caps, all those things that he has great experience of. So I'm looking forward to working with him and using him every bit as much as he's able to be used. Because we need help in that category, and I'm not talking about just the evaluations, and I'm talking about all of it: the money, a way to talk to agents, some things that can take that that personal relationship between me and the kids. Somebody can be a buffer, you know, and along with a lot of other things. But I'm looking forward to working with him.
I don't think we've talked to you that much yet about your specialists. So just how have you felt about that group so far, especially your new kicker, Starzik?
I like him. He's got a strong leg. He's very accurate. I like him. Devin's obviously doing a really good job. Got a lot of confidence. But I've liked Ford as well. You know, he was here before. But Starzik's got a strong leg and great accuracy. I'm really happy with him. Getting Shanks has helped us in special teams as well. Obviously, we have Rodney for the kickoff returns, but Shanks is also maybe a 2 right there at that point in the punt return. I think we got him for several reasons. One is help us in the slot, but the other one certainly was to return punts, as he made All-American last year doing that. So I like all those specialists. I kind of put the returners in as specialists as well. And, of course, having Ashton No come back has been very, very beneficial to us as well.
See, I know he's been on the job for a couple of days, but going back to Remy, how do you foresee him being involved with you day to day? Like, is he going to be at team meetings, staff meetings with you, or how do you have an idea of how that's going to look here moving forward?
During this time, he's going to be directly involved with everything: meetings, evaluation, on film, at practice, whatever it may be. After that, I think, then he becomes part of Pat Doherty, part of the recruiting area, but he has to know our team because he's got to have an opinion. That's why we hired him. And so I look for, during this time, it's sort of like tax season. They have their on season, then they have their off season. So a lot of us, we're getting to know each other and all that, but we have to be ready. Like, we've got guys in the portal. I'm watching 5 guys in the portal after this meeting between now and practice. He'll do the same thing, and then we'll come up with who we want, and then, of course, the money becomes, is it affordable for us or not?
And I'm curious, you're about halfway through spring ball now. Where has Talon improved the most, or kind of how is he different now than he was maybe this time last year?
Well, his knowledge, obviously, like we talked about Omega, kind of understanding what to do now. But his knowledge is better. His comfort with Bobby and with his teammates, I think, is better. He was healthy last spring, and I believe he's healthy now. I think we don't realize how banged up he was after that Tennessee game, and he never says anything, which is a good thing. But he would go into the training room. We knew we were hurt. We obviously did some things a little bit different because of that, especially in his ability to run. I don't think you ever saw him run the rest of the year like he did at Auburn, per se, where he felt great and he tried to hurdle the guy and all that stuff. So I just think that he's more in tune with the offense. I think his decision making has been faster than what it was last spring. He's always been able to throw the football. We had a big windy day the other day that might have made a little bit of difference for the quarterbacks and receivers and DBs for that matter. But I think he's really confident, and his deal is right now he's trying to get to know who the new receivers are. I think that's probably the biggest thing, including the tight ends.
Remember this time last year you were really impressed with Talon and Carmona came in and you said they kind of just took the team from a leadership perspective. Obviously you still have those two, but I'm curious, are there any other voices that you feel like have kind of emerged into that group of leaders?
Yeah, I think Miguel Mitchell and Larry Worth are guys. Sorey is a guy that, everybody looks at on defense like everybody looks at the guy on offense being Taylon Green. They should. Dix is a guy that came in, we didn't know a whole lot about, but now he's got that impression on the team. So I think those are the guys, silent leaders would be Mike Washington. He doesn't say a whole lot except when you give him the football, and a guy that has really earned a lot of respect on the team is Danny Sully. I mean, Danny's been playing really, really well, and so those would be the guys right off the top of my head.
Spring ball is the time to sort of mix and match, but was just kind of curious with so many new receivers coming in, what's kind of the criteria for determining which guys are going to get the most snaps, with Talon and being able to kind of develop that connection with him?
Well, the ones that get open and catch it would be number one criteria, know what they're doing. It was a good question. I got that in me sometimes. But no, it was a good question. You have two of our better receivers, in my opinion, play the same position. So you're looking at how we're going to get Sharp and Shanks on the, how we're going to get them on the field at the same time. And of course, we just put in our 5 wides as y'all saw Tuesday. But you have to have. I don't think you can throw out 5 not tall guys, as we talked about last time. But you also can't put somebody on the field that's not as good as somebody on the bench. So that's part of what we're trying to figure out. I think there's some guys emerging like a Blake, like a CeCe, like a CJ Brown. I think some of those guys are starting to make plays out there on the outside, and I'm sure I missed somebody. But I think that's where you're looking at it. How do you get your best 3, 4 at times on the field? If you go 4 out there, you could put Sharp and Shanks on the field at the same time, and not have any problem with it. But once you go down to 3, you're starting to go, okay, who's my 12 personnel wide receivers? Who are they? Who's my 11 personnel wide? Who's my 10? And who's my empty guys? So we're still trying to figure that out right now. But I'm not going to, but I could tell you probably 5 maybe 6 that I'd go, okay, those guys are the guys that we're going to put on the field if we played a true game on Saturday.
Yeah, and I guess to go off that, I mean, you're also learning the guys for the first time. How hard is it not to just be a prisoner of the moment if one guy has one really good practice and you're just trying to evaluate everybody at the same time?
Yeah, it is difficult. That's where Remy comes in to help as well. But it is difficult. But, the greatest thing about us practicing one day and off the next, you have plenty of time to watch every rep of Indy, to watch every rep of special teams, to team and all that. And so you get an idea, and then you get body language ideas, where they're at. You get, like Omega Blake, Scott was talking to him about, can you play a 9-play drive and be our gunner? And he said, Coach, I love to play football. Do not take me off the punt team, those type things. So you start learning a little bit more about guys who have the love for football, because in all honesty, you can be as talented as you want, and you don't love the game, you're not going to be a very good player.
you're obviously not going to have like 5, 6 guys catch 30 passes, but like somebody's going to catch a lot out of that group. Any idea who that guy might be? Who, when it's third down, you got to go to him?
Well, I've been high on Sharp ever since he came here. And then you have those guys that we spoke about, Blake and CC and Shanks. A guy who's not catching a lot of balls but is doing a lot of good things is Rohan Jones. He caught one the other day in our kill the clock 2-minute drill. But I anticipate him catching a lot of balls. He's very, very talented. So those guys would be, you have CJ added into that mix. Cross Johnson's done some nice things, but I think probably those first 4 that I talked about, I'm thinking that they're going to – somebody will emerge. It's just like Andrew Armstrong. You didn't know what you really had. You didn't know. He had a pretty good, junior year. We thought he was going to be a good player. In the time that his junior year and his senior year, to me, he mentally changed. I mean, he was a lot – because he got hell knocked out of him a few games, got back up, came back in as soon as he was cleared, and had a 1,000-yard season. We're looking for somebody like that, and I believe they're on our team. We just we'll have to find them on a Saturday afternoon.
Seems like you've had some guys banged up at cornerback, obviously. Jordan Young, I guess that in practice.
Yeah.
You mentioned Kenai. How difficult is it to, I guess, try to establish who your starters are at those 2 spots? And Selman looks like he's been getting quite a number of reps with the ones.
He has, and he's gotten better. I mean, I look a little bit at like Trey at that position, because you have Davila, you have Jaden Allen, Jaheim Singletary's getting better because he's playing with a little bit more confidence. I really like what Nick Perry's doing with that group. And then you look at who's in the portal now. Well, Cam Ball's in the portal, which Danny Saleh, I'm not saying about he's in the portal. I'm saying for me, we're getting him back. We know what we have. Kobe Branham, we're getting him back. Davila, Kenai and Oki were kind of that way, where it's kind of like a Christmas present and open it up and see if you got a pair of socks or a tuxedo, And so, because, I was a little heavy when I was younger, and I'd get a lot of socks and underwear. I wouldn't get a whole lot of jeans and stuff because, Husky jeans weren't just local and all that. But I have no idea what that did to the question, but I think I've already answered it.
Sorry, just one more on Cofield. I guess you talked a lot about how he can help bringing in new players and helping you navigate the portal. I'm just wondering how you envision his relationship with retention and, helping with players that are already here.
I think it has a lot to do. Guys, a lot of times if you're married, you need a little buffer. You go talk to your son and say, hey, go to mom and see what this idea would be. I think you need a buffer. And to me, he's that guy, because since we've been here, I kind of been the good guy and the bad guy. Good if you come in and you want X amount of money, and all that, and we feel like that's the worth and all. That's going to be they're going to go to him. And so I think that buffering system is going to help me tremendously. And then it's personal, guys are going to leave. You understand why, but then it becomes personal. We need to take that part out of the game. To me, I'm all for these guys making money, all for it. But there are some that leave that it hurts you, So I think having him, I think that will help us, and he can be a buffering. And if you go in and you tell him you want $400,000, and I was planning on giving you $4. Then there's a buffer in there where we can kind of figure out between the two of us, along with the coaches, what kind of money that we have in the budget.
I guess, has that been emotionally draining for you, that, you have to, on the field, kind of try and extract the most out of them, and then have to, have those bad guy conversations with them, off the field?
Yeah, I never really, to be honest with you, I've never really thought, until I see it. I never really thought, well, he's going to go in the portal, on the field, coaching them and all that, until you got he doesn't quit, but he kind of quits. You know what I mean? You can tell. So we're going to coach him. You guys, I hope, haven't seen any difference in coaching than what we had before, and our job is to get them the best they possibly can be for them, and then that'll make the team better. But when money comes into probably any situation, it's hard for greed and jealousy and all that not to come in. So balancing that, I think that will help us a little bit, having Remy help us balance some of that as well.
Sam, I feel like we've asked a lot about wide receivers today, but I've got a couple more. You've got a guy in Jordan Anthony who's doing track right now. Where does he fit in? 'Cause like he's kind of that same mold as Shanks and Sharp.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we'll go down that path as it moves on. I think he's doing so well in track, and that we'll kind of cross that bridge when it comes. I know they're awful proud of him for what it should be for what he's done in track. So I think we'll figure out whether there's a football in his future or not. Just to probably depend on a lot of things, but one of them I'm certain would be how well he does in track, and I think he was the fastest guy in the 60 in the country. So we'll cross that a little bit later. I'm probably not ready to answer that yet.
And then also, you've talked a lot about wanting to go on the portal for some defensive help and everything, but we've seen some offers go out to wide receivers. I know you can't talk about them specifically, but is that kind of an indication that you also are still looking for some help at the wide receiver spot?
Well, where'd you see the offers?
Well, just on social media and everything. I don't know if maybe they're not legit, or is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying they would have had to come through my office. But defensively is what we're really looking for. And, you have a limited budget, and we need some help number-wise as well. We need some help in the secondary, and we need some help on the defensive line a little bit. And so that would be the top priority. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't take a wide receiver. That just means that that's not priority one right now.
You say secondary, you mean primarily safety?
Trey, I'd like to get some safeties. Yeah, I'd like to get some safeties, and we're still in a waiting deal to see where Kanai is as well, at corner. And but if you look at our board, our numbers in the secondary aren't very good. And so they're not horrendous or anything like that, but we need to add 3 to 4 back there minimum. Depends on how far the money stretches.
You've gotten some good linebackers over the years that I'm thinking Greer, Swiss Army Knife, guys that maybe from a lower classification that maybe had something to prove. Any thoughts about adding another veteran linebacker? Because you do get pretty young after that first group.
Yes, absolutely. Man, I'd like to add a whole bunch of guys, just how far the money will go. But, yes, veteran, a guy that's played somewhere that, like Stephen Dix was kind of that way. He wasn't 1AA or whatever, but if we could find a guy like that had played a lot of ball to be that, wherever he may fall, but be to a guy that we could count on out there, we sure would.
You mentioned Danny Saili a minute ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's dropped 50 pounds. It's not hard to do. That's not easy to do.
Yeah, right.
Which probably speaks a lot to the dedication. What are your thoughts on just his role this year? I think he played in 7 games, but pretty sparingly.
I think he'll be in the rotation, whether he runs out there with the ones or not. But you know how we rotate our line. I think he's really good. I mean, his quickness has changed, his motor. He runs side to side to the football, which losing the weight allowed him to do that as well. But I'm just really, really high on him right now. I just think and I don't think it's just because I didn't know what I thought. You know what I mean? I didn't know, man, can he help us? And I don't think it's that, because there was times that I thought that as well. But now it's gone from, can he help us? I think he can help us to, we can win games with this guy out there because he's getting a lot of penetration and he runs, he loves to play. So it's changed a little bit. So yes, I see him definitely in the rotation, if not running out there with the ones.
Appreciate you, Coach.
Okay, guys.